Okay, is that work? Hello, this is the August video chat. I missed several of these because I didn't want to have another one until I had more regular videos out, and Stop Killing Games was just swallowing up all my time. Thankfully, it's in a better spot, and I hope to have more videos coming. Yeah, I guess first off, good and bad news on Game Dungeon. Good news is I have more planned and coming, and I don't know if I want to promise it's this month, but I don't think it'll be too much later if it's not. Bad news is this might be predictable at this point. I want to postpone the follow-up episode again because my reasoning, that one's going to take a lot more work than the others. And my reasoning is I don't want to put off Game Dungeon another month or two just to get that one out next, even though I said that's what I was going to do next. So I'm still going to do it. I just rather have more regular Game Dungeons first. That was part of the reason. Let's see. A little crooked there. That was part of the reason there was as long a delay as there was because I was thinking, okay, I said the next follow-up is going to be the next one. It just kept going on and on. And I was like, oh, damn it. Now I need to have a regular one. So no, someone's confused already, but they'll figure it out. More Game Dungeon is coming, but it's more normal Game Dungeon. Not follow-up is still getting postponed. Sorry. Let's see. Yeah, I browse through the questions. I guess I give some. Well, for Stop Killing Games, most of it it's like we're still kind of on course for the general stuff. I will bring up one thing that a lot of people have been kind of confused about, where they thought like, oh, we're pivoting to just protecting physical media now and forgetting the original course. No, the reason we're joining with the Dutch Consumer Agency on the lawsuit against Sony is because we can also piggyback our issue into there as part of the case. It's going to be a very tiny aspect of it, but to have a court rule on, because we still don't have an answer yet. What, we're 2.5 years into Stop Killing Games, something like that. We still do not have an answer definitively from any legal system as to whether this is legal or not. I mean, we certainly have opinions from lawyers, but like no judge has ruled on this. So this will be opening up kind of a bonus lane. It's probably redundant compared to what's already happening with the Choisir Ensemble now in France with their court case, because theirs is way more targeted for our issue than others. But hey, it was kind of an opportunity that presented itself, so why not, you know? So it's not really even though that's most of the court case isn't going to be about our issue, we can kind of piggyback in there. So it kind of works out. Let's see. Do I have other announcements? There's a lot going on politically with Stop Killing Games. A lot, but I don't think there's any like too big announcements that I can think of. Some of it takes me by surprise, to be honest. What? Oh yeah, I noticed from the questions I saw. Yeah, I guess if you have Stop Killing Games related questions, put at Ross Broadcast in the chat. I'll try and get those out of the way at the start. Then I'll just get to just random questions. But there was one submitted here. Okay, no, there were two. Okay. One that was submitted was, do you think in a hypothetical future where Stop Killing Games achieves all of its goals, could the EU mandate a company like Sony to continue manufacturing physical media, or would it be easier to instead impose some sort of guarantee that digital goods are made accessible beyond the distributors and of support? Well, if Stop Killing Games gets everything it's asking for, we already got that second part where you're guaranteed if you get digital goods. Like let's say it was for PlayStation, the way it might work would be, let's say they wanted to discontinue a game, they don't want to support it anymore. They might give you, let's say 90 days or whatever the time period is. They send you an email or some sort of notice saying, hey, we're going to take this game off our stores, off the library, but here's a download link. You can download it, back it up to a USB drive through the PlayStation or something like that. And then later you can just hook that up and it treats that like it's another game. So if they had that's just one idea of how they could do it at end of life for digital. Of course, Sony has no plans for something like that they've made public. Quite the opposite. They've taken out hundreds of movies that people bought off their service. So that kind of says all their intentions right there, as far as I'm concerned. But for the first one, we do not have any plans to mandate that Sony continue publishing physically, because that would, I think that's going after the wrong. There's a lot of problems with that. One, I think it's going after the wrong target, because look, we've seen physical games die. I mean, like what on. Well, I mean, Darkspore was PC, but like Overwatch, that disc doesn't work on the game anymore. The Crew, that's sold as physical copies on the PlayStation 4. Let's see, Lawbreakers, I think that was another PS4 game. Let's see, and you have ones that are like at risk, like Destiny, or so physical does not. While there has been a correlation on console for you being able to keep the game, it's by no means an absolute. So even if that was mandated, it still wouldn't necessarily solve the problem. But the other is, once you get into like the legal aspect of that, that's kind of like stating that like digital cannot be allowed for games. Because then if you're opening that door for Sony, it's like, okay, so does that mean like every single game on Steam has to be physical copy also? Or, Epic or Ubisoft or and Xbox, so in order to pass that legally, you basically would have to say the digital copies of games cannot exist independently of physical ones, and that doesn't really seem like a helpful way to take things. We're 100% adamant that you should be able to keep the game, digital or physical. But beyond that, we're Stop Killing Games is generally neutral on the format. So that would. So yeah, if we get everything we're asking for, you're going to be able to keep your games one way or another. So, okay, and let's see. I saw one other one. Okay. Oh no, there were two. Okay, or three, I guess. Let's see. Did anyone ask? Okay, no Stop Killing Games one's related that I'm seeing. Okay, this one, they're asking about VR chat, and that apparently somebody asked the developers if they had an end of life plan. The short answer is no, but they said this is a quote from a dev blog. Applying it to VR chat feels like a different case from the games it originally covered. VR chat is fundamentally built on Unity, so the content is highly portable. Worlds can be pulled into other environments, and our proprietary layer, UDON, etc., is relatively thin. No formal end-of-life plans exist. Whether we make them is above our pay grade. But the content says, and there was before we go further, there's a great reply to this. No formal end-of-life plans exist. That pretty much says it all. They're trying to pass the buck like every other big company. This is why the law has to get involved. I do agree, but I think there's a little more nuance for VR chat. Let's see. There's 2 points here. One, and in the post, they're saying from what they know, worlds can only be ported by world creators and users. There's grammar problem on the post here. Ported by world creators and users who happen to have the files to the worlds, not by end users. Okay, so that's a problem conceptually there, because then if the user can't back it up themselves, like if VR chat were to go down, I guess there's 2 questions there. One, is there a way to sort of easily port them to something else? If so, that's one potential problem that might not be a big deal. But the other is if the user themselves can't back up the worlds that they like, then it's the same as effectively killing it. if there's no end of life plan. So that's a problem and not really a solution. That's a concern I've had about VR chat. I've used it a little bit before, and I remember I was trying out like a VR world. What was the game for? I think it was like for Ridge Racer. Somebody ported it to VR. I was just checking out the track, and I was thinking, geez, this is gonna suck if this goes down, because then all this work will go out the window. That's sort of what happened with, well, probably multiple games, but I think, what was it, with one like the Little Big Planet worlds, that that they took it down, and then like all the custom levels people created were just thrown in the trash. So that's a problem in itself. Now, the other nuance to this is, to the best of my knowledge, VR chat is free. So if they're not selling you a copy of it, and there's not like microtransactions, there's merchandise. Like I think I saw on their site, but that's different if like you wanted like a T-shirt or something. So if it's completely free, then they'd be exempt. I mean, that's because then it's kind of, I think it would be overreach, because then somebody can't make just an experimental prototype for a game, put it online, because then they would have legal liability for that. And again, I think that's going too far if the game is free and they're not collecting money from people in exchange for the game. So, yeah, no, I mean, they said they have no end of life plan. Guess who else said that? Ubisoft for the, or no, Ivory Tower, I guess, for the Crew. Well, look how that turned. No, we got lucky that third party came along and reverse engineered it with the Crew Unlimited. But if it was left to Ubisoft, that game would still be completely dead. So that tends to be the norm. And like the person said in the comments, that's exactly why the law has to get involved. But that said, even if we got everything we're asking for, VR chat could still be exempt just because they're free. They're kind of a rare case of that. So, okay, and the last Stop Killing Games one I saw. Okay, they have a multifaceted question about the campaign in general. When it comes to the goals of Stop Killing Games, is the campaign tackling the problem of game ownership or the lack thereof to the same degree as game preservation? Well, there's, I mean, yeah, and then they have if yes. Well, that question is kind of doesn't quite get to exactly what it's getting at. It's kind of both simultaneously. The core of it is basically trying to make it unlawful for publishers to deliberately disable the game you purchased. So it's a preservation thing, but it's also a consumer rights thing. That in itself is not full game ownership. Like, you don't have like the full intellectual property rights to the game you bought. You just have the limited rights that are outlined in the license agreement, minus the terms that are probably illegal, which includes being able to just take it away, disable it at any time for any reason. So it's not full ownership. Now, there's even more nuance to that, but I don't think I have to get into that now. Okay, and then they're saying, if yes, what's a hypothetical roadmap to ensure a game copy you've bought stays yours after cessation of support, functions normally without any dependencies, and isn't at the mercy of a third party? Well, the roadmap's going to be for the companies themselves. See, we're focused on the government saying a publisher disabling the game that's unlawful. Again, I've mentioned this a bunch of times now, so people are probably sick of it, but I mentioned the stop sign analogy. The government can put a sign up that's stop sign saying you have to stop at this intersection, at this stop sign. It does not mandate what braking system your car uses. It does not need the schematics of the car or the blueprints of it, or mandate exactly which brakes just for that stop sign. Just that the car has to come to a stop. It's the same mentality here. But as for, a roadmap, we put out a video last year, Stop Killing Games developer frequently asked questions. And they go over a lot of guidelines for that. But the number one thing is, if you're making an online only game, then lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, then having a plan for when you inevitably need to shut it down so users can still use it, that's the number one step. It needs to be part of the requirement in the design document. Once it's with that, then I think a lot of things fall into place. But a lot of online only games also have what are called local test environments, so that they can test a lot of simple things, even if their connection does go down, or they don't have to fire up like a full server just to test some simple things. And if they've done that, that's half the battle already. So this is something that it's kind of half being done already for the most part. But okay, but is the removal of the account marketplace-based DRM a necessary step in ensuring ownership, or are there other ways to guarantee that your purchase can't be tampered with and it's yours and yours only? Okay, well, we're only looking at that once at end of life. So some people aren't going to be happy about this, but that would be 100 times more difficult otherwise. Is they can stuff it full of DRM if they want to, as long as they're still supporting the game. It's that once they end support, if that DRM is preventing you from being able to run the game, then yeah, that would completely violate what we're asking for, and they could face legal consequences for that. So now there is kind of an open question, which will honestly probably have to be left to the lawmakers how to implement this, because I could see it going one of two ways. Because let's say there's a game on Steam, and it uses Steam DRM, or uses like some developer tools that go through Steam for the multiplayer. But then the developer wants to end support, and they're going to stop selling the game. Well, I think that it would be on the developer then to kind of decouple what the dependency on Steam just to run the game at that point. However, there is a train of thought that says, okay, well, the developer wants to end this, but I'd say for sure if Steam insisted on having like a DRM or something remain in the game, or Valve did, I'm talking hypothetically, then the argument could be, okay, from that point onward, the liability shifts, where if the developer did everything they can on their end to decouple it from the game, but because of a deal they have with the publisher, in which case, let's say Steam or Valve, it continues on their platform with the DRM or with some functionality that's tied to Steam, then Valve would inherit the responsibility for ensuring they're not making that game unplayable. It doesn't necessarily have to be like support, but since they're still involved with the DRM scheme for that, I think by choice, it would have to, because I think all the Steam DRM is voluntary. So that's why I think it would be on the publishers. What? No, I think it'd be on the publisher's end. Somebody's asking if I opted out of Amazon using Twitch video footage to train AI. No, I haven't. I should probably mess with that. It's kind of a low priority for me. But, so yeah, I'd say the safe answer though is it's on the publisher or whoever has the rights to the game to decouple it from any services that you have to connect to a third party in order for the game to continue functioning. It can still use third-party software, but it would have to be like a middleware license terms where you're given like a limited version of it in order to run the game and that sort of thing. But if when they shut down the game still if you've downloaded all the files, you have everything you allegedly need to run the game, if it still has to connect to a third party at that point, and then it would not be compliant with what Stop Killing Games is asking for. So, okay, let's see. Okay, so those are the Stop Killing Games questions. Okay, I guess I'll just get to the regular ones now. What have you been doing to unwind these past few months? Seen any good shows or movies? I saw some. I watched the second season of Fallout. That continues to be good. I still think that's probably the best game adaptation ever. Like it gets Fallout better than Bethesda does, in my opinion. Let's see, what else? I played some games, though they've all been either low performance 3D games or 2D games, just because it's been so hot. I do not want to be running just something real demanding that starts kicking up the fans and acts like a personal heater in the room on top of it. Like right now, I'm gonna be sweating as it is. Um, the games I went through several. I knocked a whole bunch of games off my list, not because I just chugged through them, but because I would play for a chunk of it, and I realized, nah, I'm not really feeling it. Nah, not really feeling it. I went through a lot of games like that, but where I've played so many games at this point, like I can just kind of tell if one, I'm liking the game, two, I'm not sure if I've given it enough of a chance yet. Like, the verdict's out. So some games I can play 10, 20 minutes, and I'm not sure where it's going to go with this. So others I can tell within 3, 5 minutes, no, this isn't my thing. I went through a lot of the ones of that last category. So I wrote down some of the ones. Well, some of these are before summer, but the ones that I definitely liked were Mars spelled with a Z. That was sort of like a base defense game. That one is very much a 3D game, but I was kind of playing that in April before I went to the Parliament hearing. Kind of finished it when I came back. Bolt Gun, finally played that. That it might be the best sort of modern boomer shooter I've played. I'm not, but I haven't gone through all of them. But I think for my taste, I could have different. I could like one even more that has like more of like a narrative emphasis mixed in with it, kind of like Strife. I'd love to see a Strife successor, but Bolt Gun is extremely good for what it does. Actually, I think I played it last year too. Cultic is also way up there for among the best modern boomer shooters. And I replayed some of Dome Keeper because they had some updates, so I played more. That one's still quite addictive. And then just just plenty of games. I guess the one that'll upset the most people that I gave up on after it's one that was originally I needed to wait till the verdict was out. Then I played more of it, and I was thinking, no, I'm not really getting into it. Is Factorio? I didn't really get into it. What I was making an effort despite the desert environment, but I guess what I didn't like is like, okay, you start automating your mining, but then the mining is still coming from a finite source. So you're really just buying time. And then in my brain, I was thinking, well, that means I'm going to have to like babysit the automation. It's like you automate more and more, then you have to like keep back checking on the automation that you've already done. And like, I don't know, I didn't like being in that state of mind where it's like I'm having to constantly check like all this list of things. I know a bunch of people find that addictive, if it's not their favorite game, whatever. But I didn't quite like it. I was looking it up to see if it was just me, and some others felt that same way. And apparently, if you don't like that, you might like Satisfactory more. So apparently, it's kind of on the other half of that. So. Okay, somebody's saying you can install an alarm system if things run out. Okay, well, that's something then, I guess. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. It's just like I wasn't liking the mental weight I was feeling of like having to keep track of this. Like I kind of tend to like to take care of something to move on, respond to the new thing. So, okay, so next questions. Do the new YouTube monetization rules affect you in any way? I have no idea. I only saw some snippets of them. And the impression I got was that they're targeting, making it harder for newer people more. But knowing YouTube, that's no guarantee they're not going to target me for the next round. I mean, like, okay, so fine, I get through this round. Then 9 months later, then they're upping the requirements for me too. So who knows? I don't even know. I did get the feeling that if they do affect me, there's not much I'm going to be able to do to influence it either way. So I'm not worrying about it too much. Well, I mean, one of the things was for shorts. So I have almost no shorts as it is. But like, to give an example, they're saying like, oh, instead of having 10 million views in shorts, you need 20 million. It's like, okay, well, that's not something I'm going to be influencing. You know, I'm going to try and make good videos, and if not enough people like them, then that's tough for me. Then it's I'm not. One, I think it would make the videos worse, and two, I'd have doubts in my ability to chase trends. So, okay, next question. Oh yeah, and for anybody joining, I'll answer live questions usually at the end. So far these are the submitted ones, and I might skip more of them this time because I just didn't have great answers for a lot of them. Without going into spoilers, can you say anything about some narrative or thematic elements that will be explored in the movie? Okay, well, it's a comedy adventure in a medieval fantasy environment. It's going to be relatively low fantasy. Yeah, but okay, narrative or thematic elements. I will say, okay, it does share some similarity. I don't give too many hints with some elements with a Twilight Zone episode or two. It definitely deals with some psychological elements for sure. But like I don't mind spoiling this. Chaos for sure is going to be an element of the movie, and if it's not, I'm doing a bad job. So that's why I don't mind. It's definitely there's definitely going to be some chaos, healthy portions of chaos in the movie. So, okay, yeah, okay. They're saying, "Hey man, how do you deal with rejection and getting fired and stuff, and generally moving on when life sucks?" Well, I don't really have a good answer, but I can tell you the sort of image I get in my head. Uh, it's mostly the music I'm thinking of, but it's from a movie also. The movie itself isn't that great, but the image just sort of stuck with me because of the music. In the movie Spawn is not that great, but I mean it's okay. It has good moments, but the soundtrack is amazing to that movie. Like every track in there is just a winner. And I'm thinking of the one, yeah, I think it was a lot of collaborations too. The one I'm thinking of is Marilyn Manson and I think the Sneaker Pimps, "Long Hard Road Out of Hell," and like that's like if I'm feeling like really kind of defeated, rejected by something, that's the sort of music that starts playing in my head. And like in the movie, I think they play it when he first comes back from hell, and he's just kind of wandering through alleys and is just kind of a wreck. And I don't know, that gets. I think that gets you in the right state of mind hearing that, because that's not like this overly depressing song or anything. It's just kind of sending the message that you have a lot of rough times ahead of you, and you're gonna have to deal with it. That's sort of the vibe I get from that song. Here, I'll make notes to add that to the in the YouTube description. So yeah, I don't really have any good advice for you, but I would recommend listening. The song's awesome. Like, so I'd recommend listening to that. Is my advice. Let's see. What is your favorite hiking destination? Well, I don't know if I have. I mean, I'm not that much of a globetrotter that I've been to all these different places. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of spectacular places I haven't been to. One I know of that I've been to a few times. I think it was in Virginia. Devil's Marble Yard, which is like this. You hike a ways in, and then it's just like just hill after hill after hill of marble boulders, like kind of in the middle of this forest, and it's a little surreal, and I like that. That's probably my favorite of ones I've been to. Let's see. And it doesn't look as spectacular like from an aerial view than it does like on the ground. It feels more otherworldly from the ground. I'll mention that too. It is a question I don't have a good answer for. Ross, what would be your best life advice for someone stepping into their 20s? See, that kind of implies I have my act together and I know what you should, and I know what I would be doing if I was in my 20s, and I don't. I mean, I guess if I was starting over in 20s, I might try, I don't know, I might drift more towards more blue collar ish job. So something that's going to have practicality, even if the economy goes to hell, that sort of thing, or if technology changes a whole bunch. Like one thing I was sort of, I mean, I never really got seriously into it, but one thing I wouldn't, I wouldn't have minded if my life had kind of gone that direction, was maybe becoming an electrician, and like you could go to like a trade school or community college for that, and probably like have a decent job somewhere. That I think for I think for our lifetimes, electricity is going to remain in demand. So, but see that I don't know you or what sort of things you're into or that sort of thing. So, um, well, I guess in my early 20s or I guess late teens, early 20s, you know, medication can make a dramatic impact for major depression, and like I learned that eventually. But yeah, that would have been useful to know earlier on, and especially because different medications will interact with different neurotransmitters. Like, as I think, you know, there's serotonin, which wasn't really my issue. There was dopamine, and there was the epinephrine, or, whatever. The point is, you could have one medication not have any noticeable impact on you at all, and another one could act dramatically. So, let's see. 20s. Yeah, I guess be prepared for change. You know, it's assume things are going to keep changing. I think, yeah, that would be my rough advice. You know, it's yeah. It sounds like, thankfully, I'm from my lifetime, I managed to dodge it before it got awful. I only had to do it the more traditional way, but it sounds like submitting a resume to a major business. It just sounds like hell, if not near impossible. I mean, when I was younger, it was more just the normal. Okay, try to try to make yourself look kind of halfway competent. List any related experience for like entry level jobs, that sort of thing. But yeah, that might go better with electrician, because then you might be able to maybe network a little bit and talk to a guy who knows a guy who could maybe get you like an apprenticeship or something, and you might be able to bypass that and just go to work at like some local stores. Yeah, somebody was mentioning plumbing in the chat. That's something you don't have to. That's something. The demand is widespread enough that you might be able to walk into a small store and say like, "Hey, I graduated from this community college. Can you do you need somebody as apprentice, or do you know somebody in the area who might, or that sort of thing?" So you might be able to bypass some of the brutalist side of resume submission today. Um, yeah, that would be my advice: is try to brainstorm something that does not involve you having to send out 500 resumes, because that just sounds like a losing proposition. Yeah, it's the same in the chat. It's all about cronyism and networking. Yeah, make everyone your friend forever. Yeah, well, so yeah, I guess figure out what fields can you make friends in that you might be able to get in that way. Uh, let's see. Yeah, I mean, like when I was younger, I mean, I did do it the resume way, but well, actually, I guess my first computer repair job, it was sort of through networking. Yeah, and then later ones through resume. So yeah, like back then, I might have had enough contacts that I might have been able to get a computer repair job somewhere that way. So yeah, I guess look at who you know, or do you think we'll ever see another Civil Protection? Any update on the movie? It's possible. I mean, like what I'm hoping from the movie is that, I'll get a new pipeline established enough that civil protection won't have to be as much trauma animating with all the modern tools we're doing for the movie. I mean, that was the whole. It's not that I dislike doing civil protection. I just dislike the animation. So if I'm getting a lot of tools up off the ground from making the movie, then maybe some of that can spill over into civil protection. So yeah, it's still an option, but it's gotten shoved back in line, unfortunately. Because the flip side is I'll hate animating so much afterwards. I'll have at least made the movie, and then I'll have more like inner peace with that. So because I can say the movie is going to be better ideas than what I have for civil protection overall. I had a lot of ideas though, but I think the movie will be better than all of them. What are your thoughts on the current horror game landscape? I'm actually kind of behind. It might be promising. I saw there was a trailer for a Hellraiser adaptation, and to be honest, it looked better than the movies, like from the trailer. So yeah, and it got me thinking like the sort of horror. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, horror games are ones I'm getting a lot pickier on now. Like I think the thing that's because like everything kind of needs to click in place for me to like play through it now, rather than just like watch a playthrough or just give up on it entirely. Like I think one big thing I want more is have a compelling narrative, like kind of draw me in to this, like, and I think that's kind of like the big thing I would like if I'm really invested in the story and want to see where this goes. That's good. And when I think about my favorite horror games, they too do tend to have that to some degree, or they also tend to have a really good atmosphere, but that's really subjective. But one thing I would hone in on is really good music to go with it can help a lot. I mean, it's like I'm thinking back to like Resident Evil or Silent Hill or something. Those both have fantastic soundtracks. Uh, Clive Barker's Undying. That actually I forgot most of the music to it, but the menu music, that is wonderful. And then it starts off good, so it may not have been as memorable as stuff like Resident Evil, but I also am not that big of a fan of you being completely defenseless and all you can do is hide and have stealth. I like having what I call like tense defense. So you can kind of defend yourself, but it's by no means like a sure thing. Like, or, you have very limited ammo, that sort of thing. Like it, so I like having some defense, but not, you're so good at it, you're not scared. So yeah, kind of tense defense. What's another? Yeah, but if it's just something where you're just wandering around oh yeah, I'd say the more abstract it is, where you're not sure what's going on, the more I'm kind of losing my taste for that. But you can maybe pull it off. But that's actually one area where I am going to appreciate more production value, because then it kind of grounds me, because like I'm thinking like Silent Hill is kind of pretty abstract, but it has a lot of production value even for the time, the original one, and you have a narrative going on, cutscenes, characters talking, so it's kind of grounding you in between everything just going crazy. So, and I kind of appreciate that if it's going to go abstract, but I don't know. I'm fine with things not being abstract, and it's just the world is ending, and now monsters are crawling out of the ground or something, and it's terrifying. I'm totally on board with that. So, yeah. See, somebody's mentioning Amnesia. I know a lot of people love it. I didn't really get into Amnesia, and kind of the same for Penumbra before that. It was like Penumbra starts off decent, but it just kind of didn't land with me ultimately as it kept going. Yeah, again, I'm pickier now, but I'm optimistic. Yeah, well, I'm pretty far behind on Resident Evil too, and it's from what it sounds like Capcom he keeps having winners with Resident Evil. Yeah, actually, to up the fear factor, it sounds like all the modern Resident Evil games since 6, I think, have received VR ports. So you can be able, so that's like 2 and 3 remake, 4 remake. 4 sort of has a V. I don't know if 4 has a PC VR port. It has an Oculus port for sure, but I'm not an Oculus now. Anyway, the point is, I bet it's going to be scarier playing it in VR. So I might hold off on some of those. For sure, I want to play Alien Isolation that way. That one has a full VR mod. Yeah, I say port. They're unofficial ports, but yeah, I bet playing it in VR will make it scarier. Okay, if you were to rank some of the Game Dungeon games for movie or TV show adaptations in the current cultural market, what would the list be? When you say rank, I guess do they mean like what would be most marketable? I have to look up what I still think Quarantine can work. Quarantine has kind of like timeless appeal, I think. I'm trying to look up the list of Game Dungeons I've done here, so yeah. See, I don't even. I'll of course recognize all of them, but I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. Okay. Normality probably wouldn't land as much today. It was 90s in the best ways, I'd say. I mean, Alan Wake could probably be marketable, but I don't know how much that would benefit from being in a movie form. What are some other ones that would? Yeah, because like there's see what's marketable. What's marketable today? Yeah, I guess Alan Wake would be the most marketable one because it's like has the most recognition. I guess The Division also, but I don't think those are going to necessarily be the best choices for like making an adaptation out of it. Like I would want something that like just goes kind of nuts. I mean, Killing Time. I think Killing Time would be good, but that's not going to have the name recognition. Let's see. You'd have to take it a different direction because there wasn't enough there, but Messiah would be awesome. Like, let's see what. Yeah, see, a lot of the ones I've covered aren't that well known. Let's. Wow, I should adjust some of these thumbnails. It looks like my own thumbnail for. Well, I don't think I made one. I think it let it be automatic, but I just noticed Human Revolution changed its thumbnail on me. So I still need to make some for old ones. Eternum, you might be able to get away with. I guess a little less now, just because you could sort of piggyback on the popularity of Westworld, because that's kind of what it was. But it's like a goofier Westworld. So yeah, you might be able to do that one. I think you could get a cult hit out of Armed and Delirious if you kept the budget low. So yeah, like you'd have to keep the budget pretty low because it wouldn't pay off. It'd be too weird, but you could get a cult hit if you. Let's see. Well, I know for a fact there have been Rendezvous with Rama has been caught in development hell for many years. Yeah, I think I mentioned that in the video. Yeah, like even Morgan Freeman was trying to get it made. I guess Deus Ex would be extremely marketable, but I cannot imagine they do a good job with Deus Ex Hollywood. I have no faith in them for that. Realms of the Haunting, that wouldn't have the name recognition, but that would be interesting because I think that's one you probably should rewrite some of it and just kind of go off your own direction with it. Okay, Life is Strange would be probably very marketable and wouldn't. I doubt I'd be interested in watching it. So. Okay, I should move on to more questions. Let's see. Yeah, and you may not be able to tell, but there's like beads of sweat across my forehead right now just from sitting here. And I have a fan blowing on me, but it's kind of quiet. So. When's the Deus Ex Mankind Divided video coming out? Not anytime soon. I still need to play it. And hey, I will say that's been kind of a curse of VR is if it's a game that's real scenic and like has a great environment, it starts making me question if I even want to play it in 2D as opposed to just get a stereoscopic injector and then play it in 3D. Deus Ex Mankind Divided looked really good. So however, Deus Ex is one of those games where the more involved it is with the controls and the HUD and everything, the less of a great candidate it is for playing it the first time in VR that way. Like if it's just like a really basic shooter, you can maybe do it. But Deus Ex is going to be a lot of interaction and stuff, so it might not be a great candidate for first time around. I'll play it eventually. I'm just not in a rush for it, especially knowing that it has a cliffhanger ending. I don't know what it is, but that just kind of that dampens my enthusiasm, knowing that the story's not going to get resolved. So I'm still interested, but that knocks it down several pegs from what I want to play next. Let's see. If you've ever read this SCP Foundation wiki, what's your favorite SCP? I haven't, and I haven't played Containment Breach, the game. I have stumbled into, what was it called? Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. I'll add that to the list. I think that counts. That was interesting. They're basically, they made up all this kind of fake documentation on it, like it's like a travel guide or something, like you're visiting a national park, like Yosemite or something, except it's this giant fleshy organism out in the middle of nowhere that people kind of go inside. That could be decent for a movie idea. You can make a plot out of that. Let's see. I'll have a link for that in the description. Let's see. Oh, Deus Ex Human Revolution is no longer the future in 4 months. Yeah, well, that's why they should have tapered their expectations there. Let's see. Has there ever been a moment in your YouTube career that made you want to quit? No, not really, because it's better than pretty much every other job I've had. I guess PC repair was all right, though. However, there have been plenty of times where I want to shift to making a different kind of video. That's how Freeman's Mind started, and well, Game Dungeon was more of me wanting, because I was just sick of animating Civil Protection. It's like I liked having a more original plot. Just animation sucks. For Game Dungeon, that was kind of half. I wanted to try something different, and half I knew at some point Freeman's Mind would end, so I wanted to try to have something to fall back on if it did. It's kind of an experiment. So, but yeah, not really making me want to quit. Just shift what kinds of videos I'm making, or scale back to some degree. Let's see. Someone's asking for a digital hug and I don't know. This feels like a side of the internet like I don't really do. So I'm, I've said before, I don't really get into internet culture that much. I've always viewed the internet as like a tool to kind of take me where I want to go for finding information. This sounds squarely in the culture side of things. So, where do you think the current game industry crash is leading to? I think it's leading to its own kind of chaos because you have a lot of things happening at once where a whole I think a lot of AAA developers are operating at kind of unsustainable or else very fragile terms. And I think you're going to, a big enough crash is going to send the ones that don't know how to that just balloon their budgets to the moon and back, then they're not going to be able to adapt to things getting tighter. But you'll see studios that know how to handle that probably do even better, or it might be kind of a flashback to maybe 20 years or so where you will see more kind of mid-range games or the big budget games are ones where they really know what they're doing and they're going to deliver like a lot of value and it's something they know people are going to really want. Like I'm thinking of something like, the From Software games like with Elden Ring that has like enormous production value and scale, but they know what they're doing. They know that like the average gamer knows that they're going to get a lot of value out of buying a game like that. So they know how to handle that in a sustainable way, I imagine. So you're going to see ones like that, and you might see more like kind of mid-range games where it might be just a fraction of that budget, but that they can make a profit out of it. However, the other thing that's going on that I think is going to disrupt things more than anything is the current Rampocalypse going on, because man, that's just going to affect a lot more than just games. That's going to be computing in general, but maybe that does incentivize a lot more kind of like not so demanding 3D games or 2D games for a while, just because who the hell is going to just be paying four figures just to play one new game or just to get the hardware for it. I mean, it's. I think I don't think that's gonna last forever, but it could last a couple years. So it's like I think eventually that levels off, but for the time being, that's going to be a crunch for a lot of companies that they have to figure out where the demographics are, because people are going to still want to play games, but that could deter a lot of them if your average system or console just isn't affordable. Yeah, actually, it's going to be kind of a time warp because, like, I feel like it's kind of making, well, at least on the PC side, it's kind of making like PC gaming for more like the early 90s, late 80s, where PCs were more of like a luxury item then. And, they did cost more. And so gaming survived in that, but now it's just ballooned to just an insane levels. Indie games as a whole, I think will continue doing great, but it's going to be hyper competitive. So a lot of indie games are not going to do well, even if they might be decent games, just because there's going to be so much competition. But I think for sure those are going to keep trucking on one way or another. So, okay, next one. What do you think is the worst video game ending? Chat, feel free to suggest ones. That's kind of depends on how you measure it, because there's all kinds of games where like the end is just a screen saying the end, or some they don't even say the end, they just kick you back to the menu screen. I mean, those are kind of the worst. So I guess for this question, it would be like ones where they put effort into an ending, but it's not very good or satisfying. Somebody mentioned Rage. I'm sure you can do worse than that, but you're right. Rage just felt like, okay, we ran out of money. Time to publish the game. Let's go. Yeah, you're right. Rage is not a very good ending at all. Yep. Somebody's mentioning Mass Effect 3. That one's, it's not the worst ending, but it's the sort, it's not a good ending considering how much it was built up is the problem. So it's like people's expectations were built up by the publisher, and then they delivered you just kind of a so-so ending based on that. Like in a vacuum, Mass Effect 3's ending, there are way worse ones than that. So yeah, Realms of the Haunting, it wasn't that great, but yeah, it was kind of let down, but it wasn't like the worst. Um, that's a good question. Do you think no ending is worse than a really sloppily, awfully written ending? Yes, because if it's really, because if it's just really sloppy and badly done, you can at least kind of laugh at it. You know, I probably mentioned this before. I don't know if I mentioned my alternate the endings I wanted from it that it didn't do. This is gonna sound like blasphemy to people, but I wasn't that satisfied with the endings in Cyberpunk 2077. Although what was it, the Arasaka ending was okay in the sense because that one felt kind of, I mean, they all kind of lead the same place more or less, but that one was kind of creepy the way they did that one. And I like that. I'm all for a creepy ending, but then, yeah, what? The, without, okay, I guess I'll raise my, I won't give like huge spoilers, but I'll give some spoilers. So when I raise my hands again, I'll, no more spoilers. But basically, the thing with all Cyberpunk's endings is they're all trying their damnedest to be depressing, and they even do it to the extent of sort of like even bucking the lore or the plot. Like some of their endings, you basically the only way they get there is by ignoring a plot hole, or by having a plot hole essentially. So it's just they're all kind of lame in that sense. The Arasaka one's kind of creepy at first. I like that. The two ending, I thought of like okay, if the mandate is we have no happy endings, I had two ideas I wanted that they didn't do, and because these are not happy endings, but they would still be pretty awesome endings. One would be I might have mentioned this before. Sorry if I'm repeating it. One would be there was a lot of mysticism raised about the AI that was kind of contained behind the firewalls. And this is an incredibly cybernetically integrated society. I wanted one of the endings just to be fine. I'm going down, I'm taking it, I'm just going to raise maximum chaos and basically let loose all the safeguards on the AI so it just infiltrates everything into the cyberpunk society. I mean, you have multiple endings anyway, so that one doesn't even have to be the canon one. But then you could just see everybody just get infected by AI and it just becomes crazy. And just you see, like, the cars dropping out of the sky or something like that. That would be an awesome ending. It's not a happy ending, but yeah, exactly. Somebody in the chat says, I am Shodan. Yeah, let's get our Shodan ending on. That would fit like a glove in Cyberpunk if they don't want a happy ending. And the other ending I was thinking, which I thought would just be kind of hilarious, would be to, how Johnny Silverhand is what it like has the serious beef with the Arasaka Corporation. Just nuke it again. Just do the exact same thing again. Just nuke the Arasaka building again, and then so basically everybody's reaction would be like, "What the hell is going on?" Like because most people don't know that he exists, that he's been kind of resurrected. So to see this happen again, that would send like shockwaves throughout the corporate world where everybody's just wondering what the hell is going on with this corporation in Night City. Like, so yeah, that wouldn't be a happy one either, but that would I think it would be kind of like darkly hilarious and just would again another sort of maximum chaos ending. So that's what I was hoping for. If they are insistent that you don't get a happy ending out of this, well, fine. Then let's just take people down with us. It's kind of that's what I want to see out of that game, out of games that do that. I mean, so yeah, I was okay. So done with the semi spoilers of Cyberpunk, but Would you recommend Cyberpunk as a game to play? Yeah, I mean the gameplay was fun. The story, they just keep trying. They go out of their way to be kind of downers in it. The environment is just mind jaw dropping. Yeah, the night their rendition of Night City is just incredible. So, I mean, and the gameplay is fun and the story is interesting. They just really feel like they're locking you down on a track that they didn't really want to go on with it. I also felt, I think I did mention this before. I also felt like this the tone of the story doesn't really fit the environment. Like the environment feels more like a sort of manic dystopia, you know, and that's a lot more fun than where they wanted it. The story. It's more like it's almost like a film noir to some extent, or a crime movie, but like a depressing one. So, your thoughts on Atomic Heart? Will you play it? Yo, yeah, it's definitely on my list. Not playing it lately until the weather cools off. That does not look like a game that's going to be kind to my video card, so that's going to put out heat. But yeah, I for sure want to play it. I'm trying to think of like somebody mentioned Gothic 3 is a bad ending. Looks like okay. Somebody says Quarantine. Well, I think the Quarantine one doesn't really count. That's the one I was saying where it's so little of an ending that you know, there's so many games that do that. You could just pick a million. You have to go one where they put effort into it, but the ending still sucks. I think that's kind of the metric to measure it by. I'm sure there's some. I'm drawing a blank on others. Who is your favorite character from the Dead or Alive series? I'm unfortunately not familiar with it at all, other than I know it's a fighting game. To be fair, though, I'm on similar territory with Tekken and Soul Calibur. I know like a very tiny amount about those, but yeah. Well, here, let me ask fighting game fans: which fighting games have the most interesting stories? I'm curious. Well, I guess they're asking about characters, so, but because I wouldn't mind watching it play. It sounded like parts of Tekken get a little crazy with like a demonic possession or something, and then I don't know, and like later, like one of the guys is like a cyborg or something. Yeah, Street Fighter, I know like a little bit of it. Mortal Kombat, I probably know the most story about out of fighting games. Though I'm behind though. There's a little bit of a gap in the mid 2000s, and then I watched playthrough of 10 and I think 11. And then I think from there it goes into time travel and they reboot it that way. So that's good. But yeah, I'm afraid I don't know much about Dead or Alive other than like if you put it in a lineup, I could maybe identify it. That's about as much as I know for Dead or Alive. Okay, so it's the one with the volleyball spin-offs. Yeah, that was sort of like the soft core. Like I think the marketing for that was they're obviously trying to sell the game because it had scantily clad women in it, which I'm all right with that. I just want that to be I don't want I want the lore to all line up. So you know that's kind of, some people get confused about that when I critique it in games. I don't have a problem with that. I just want it to make sense for the game that you have. For the Dead or Alive volleyball stuff, they're obviously trying to get sexy women being the selling point. So it's like, okay, so we're all in alignment. You know, it's when you're trying to have like a serious fantasy story, and then there's like the plate mail bikini, but they really want you taking this game seriously. It's like, okay, come on, guys, you got to pick one. You got to pick a lane. So, yes. Yeah, so I don't know enough about fighting games to know to know what characters are interesting or beyond that. Like, how would you review a fighting game for Game Dungeon? You know what? Maybe I'll have one. In fact, I have an idea for one or two of them. So, well, I won't spoil which ones. Uh, so I'll find out when I make the episode. Let's see. Okay, yeah, here's a good question chat can answer too. Who are the most intimidating and competent bad guy force from media you can think of? Bonus points if you were playing as one in a game. And they say for them it's a team of skilled Helldivers. Well, I've only played the first Helldivers, so I can't comment on the sequel, but there's probably more. One that came to mind immediately were the Strogg from Quake 2 and 4. That they kind of feel like a cross between the Borg and the Spartans. They come across as competent and intimidating. That's why I'm. Oh yeah, there was news that apparently there's a canceled Quake 4 expansion that was 95% done got leaked. So I'm hoping fans can put it together. You know, I'm pretty sure they can handle 5% of the game. So I'll for sure play that. Well, then they mentioned media in general. I mentioned the Borg. The original Borg were good and scary for Star Trek, and it just felt like one of the scariest things they had in the Star Trek universe. Now, unfortunately, they undercut all that later as they tried to humanize them and then personify them with the Queen and stuff like that. So they started off awesome, but they lost the intimidation factor. What are some others? Well, for media, I mean, Warhammer 40K, I guess the Tyranids, if those count as a fighting force, and some of the Chaos God forces, like those have a lot of intimidation factor. Let's see. What are some? Did you delete the last stream's video from YouTube? No, I did not, but I've missed several streams. So because Stop Killing Games was tanking things. Oh yeah, and they're on a Curse Farms junk. Yeah, so I haven't deleted any, but the streams are on the Curse Farms junk channel. Which okay, so what are so well? I mean, I guess it sort of counts. I'm still kind of catching up on it, but I guess there's Nod for Command and Conquer. The competency is sort of hard to judge though, because like the whole universe is like a little campy, so it's like you can't quite tell if they're highly competent or if it's just them clowning around, you know. Yeah, like the ending to, or one of the endings. I guess it's the GDF ending to Command and Conquer, the original, where that one gets super campy with them like hacking the servers but it's like in the best way though. Okay, somebody's saying the Empire portrayed in Andor. I haven't seen Andor yet. The soldier enemies in Fear gave a good impression. Well, see, I'm not as intimidated by those because while they're competent fighters, you know, as you play through the game, you see they're essentially just drones. All the soldiers in Fear, so it's kind of a little less scary when you know that. Well, I mean, I guess the Tyranids are too, but Tyranids are super alien. That like if you can just cut off I guess that's the difference. If you can just cut off the head, then this all goes away. I guess that's the part that doesn't feel as intimidating to me. Where, like, to me, you have an intimidating force. You want one that's just gonna keep on coming. Yet that it's not clear how you defeat them. Those are the ones I think are the scariest or intimidating, I guess. And there's an obvious, you know, vulnerability with the soldiers in Fear. And plus, that's the other thing is that they're kind of a finite supply too. You know, these are clones that have been trained. You know, from birth or something like that, you're not just going to get elite super soldiers on trees. Whereas the Strogg and the Borg are assimilating people, the Tyranids are assimilating their biomass, So it's the Chaos Gods are always happy for recruits. So yeah, those all kind of have that in common, that you're not running low. You're not going to run low on supply of the enemy. Okay, I'll go through some more questions. Okay, somebody's making the case for using a pressure cooker and dry beans instead of can. Yeah, I probably should do that. They're saying I swear by canned beans. No, that's not it. It's more that I hate spending time cooking. So I just go for like the path of least resistance. That's like that I don't hate the food, and it's just like halfway healthy at least. So no, it's not the. Yeah, maybe I should start transitioning to that, especially since my favorite brand of beans, they stopped selling them. So, and everything I've tried since then has been kind of below par. I haven't found any bugs in the alternate brands, but it's just they don't taste as good now. Let's see. Okay, this is the VR chat question. Answered that. What do you think of solar panels and home batteries getting cheaper? I didn't know they were. That might be a temporary thing. Because, do you ever see yourself in the future living totally off the grid, homestead style? Not by, not of my own initiative. If I'm doing that, that means I'm responding to something. Because I mean that's a lot of work. Okay, yeah, we have some Beatty questions here. Don't you have a wife? Doesn't she cook? Well, sometimes. But it's not enough, not reliably enough that I could bank on it. Why do you hate cooking, especially at your age, expected level of maturity? Because it takes time, and I'm doing a lot. What? I mean, I do it. I mean, it'd be immature if you don't do it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm also cleaning, doing laundry, working on making the videos, launching, the campaign's launch, doing this entire campaign on top of my own personal projects. I mean, there's not enough hours in the day. So, I can cook. I just don't like doing it. I mean, so it's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a Beatty question there, like implying that if you don't like cooking, you're not mature. I mean, like what? I don't really like washing dishes either. I still do it, but I just try to just grind through it and be done with it. So let's see. What? Okay, if you could change what IP people associated you with away from Half-Life to something else, what IP would you choose? Assume for purposes of the question that you made some work involving that IP in that Freeman's mind. Not necessarily another mind style work either, but the work isn't the point of the question. Okay, I guess I'm not sure. I guess something I'm a fan of and would be happy to have like a lot more association with. Well, I mean, I'm not against having the Half-Life association. What? On the cooking thing, somebody's saying cooking is never fun or easy. No, some people love cooking. Great. I mean, there are many other chores I'd rather do than cooking. I mentioned being an electrician or repairing computers. I bet there are a lot of people out there who would rather cook a meal than repair a computer. And I had to do that for my wife's computer. Actually, a couple weeks ago, her power supply died. I had to diagnose what the problem was and replace it. So. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so what I see, it's kind of a mix because, like, okay, I'm a big fan of like Legacy of Kain series, but I feel like I'm not like classy enough to be part of the Legacy of Kain. Those are all Legacy of Kain has lots of like classy characters. So, uh, let's see another IP associated. Well, I mean the I mean, it's kind of yeah, it's kind of an odd question because some of my favorite games are not ones that necessarily would really like work for having like spin-off material. Because again, I mentioned I'm a huge fan. Well, I guess that kind of happened already. I'm a huge fan of Phantasmagoria too, and I got to have sessions with Paul Morgan Stetler. So that I mean, yeah, obviously wasn't involved in anything in the game, but I kind of did get some work around association with it, but not that I don't know. I guess association with stuff that's not really my motive unless it was something I really wanted to have my hand in. Um, I mean, I'm a big fan of Tyrion. I mean, a game like that, that'd be great to have like some involvement in. Well, I mean, conceptually, obviously, it's gonna be a lot of work once you're talking about games. I don't know. I mean, I guess just having association with like that's not really my motive for things. It's like I can be a complete unknown. That's fine. It's let's see. Oh, Paul's live right now. Okay, I'll rate him when I'm done here. Sure, if he's still up, then I'll definitely do that. Um, yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I thought of another. I still need to play the game, but thematically, I'm so on board. Project Zomboid. That's I would wholesale own any involvement in that. Okay. Okay. Unfortunately, I forgot. Maybe the chat can remind me. Would you mind sharing the whole story about driving into a lake that you alluded to in Test Drive 3 Game Dungeon episode? I remember talking about it, but I don't remember the context. So somebody would have to refresh my memory. What shows have you been watching or listening to recently? What's Well, I've been watching shows. I've been catching up on the VHS series. It's a series of movies where, like, each movie is kind of a horror skit in itself, or something crazy happens in each of them. Let's see, watch anything else? Oh, I finished watching Upload. Like I had gotten up to season 3 last year, and then I realized they had another season, so I finished that. That show's all right. There's funny parts to it. Okay. Let's see what other shows have I watched. I feel like I started watching some of one that's like it's okay. It's one of these where it's not a great show, and I'm not saying you should for sure watch it, but let's see, what was the name of it? I think it was like it's not Equilibrium because that's the movie. Continuum. It's one of those. It's one of those shows I would call where it meets what I would call minimum standards for watchability for me. It's the idea of like this futuristic society. This cop goes back in time and to pursue these criminals just kind of by a freak accident, but now she's kind of stuck in the present day. But so it's again, it's not a great show, but it's one of those where like, if you've had a long day and you just want to have like a minimum standard of quality and you don't want to roll the dice on something that could be garbage, then yeah, it's all right. Let's see. Oh, the one I watched a couple months ago is again, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's definitely interesting. Ball Masters 9009, and it's by the same I think director who did Super Jail. That's Super Jail is wildly interesting. Like, in fact, I may want to like rewatch that because there's so much going on in those episodes. In both cases, neither one I would say are like my favorite, but it's like the creativity is like spilling out of it. So yeah, it's those are both cartoons. I think they're on Adult Swim, but yeah. Okay, so more questions. What's your favorite Source Engine game? Uh, I guess just off the top of my head, might be Sin Episodes. But I guess for single player would be the thing is I'm too my brain's burned out for Half Life, so it's like I remember I remember really liking Half Life One, and I remember thinking Half Life Two was kind of overhyped. So I really did like have, and I guess technically you have Half Life Source, that's Source Engine, but my brain's burned out on that. Um, for Source Engine, I guess for multiplayer, might be Zombie Panic Source, though it's been a long time since I played it. Um, and I like the early days of Fortress Forever, which was basically an update to Team Fortress Classic. Then they kind of took it different directions, and then they just wrecked the balance. And I'm not sure if they ever got it back. I kind of fell off a while after that. But yeah, I guess the Source Engine. I guess there's some Source Engine games we never got. The Crossing and They Hunger. They were going to do a Source version of that. Let's see. Okay, so what's your favorite Polish food? I don't know. I mean, a lot of Polish foods I probably shouldn't have anyway because they have just a lot of like flour or pork. yeah, I guess there's these pierogi with what's in them? They have like this kind of cabbage and onion mix, and then they aren't bad. I mean, there's rasul, which is kind of like an extremely. It's basically like chicken broth with like a few noodles in it. It pales in comparison to actual chicken noodle soup, in my opinion. Like, what are some other? I mean, I guess there's devil eye, which is sort of like this. It's like a chicken wrap with. It's like a breaded chicken wrap with butter inside of it. I mean, it tastes good, but fortunately, my skin reacts to that now. Um, if you were invited to Valve headquarters, would you go? I guess maybe. I mean, that'd be a long flight, but I guess it depends on why I'm going. You know, if it was like to like help with VR development or something, like getting feedback, I might be tempted, but it's just like such a long way to go there. But yeah, I'd think about it for sure. How long did the latest episode of Freedom's Mind take you to make, excluding all the pauses due to Stop Killing Games? I'm not sure. I mean, because what would happen would be is I'd work on it a day or two, and then there would be just crises happening, and then I wouldn't. I would feel like, but like this episode felt like it was perpetually a week or two away for like months and months and months. So that's because that was just the pacing of things on this. Yeah, like okay, maybe I shouldn't tell people this, but the beginning dialogue is from way earlier, whereas like where the ending dialogue is from like just recently. So, let's see. How big of a Half-Life fan are you at the end of the day? Well, again, I have to rely on my memory because it's just burned out. I really liked Half-Life Original a lot, and I like the aesthetic of it. Half-Life 2 didn't land with me as much. I think like the setting changed, and it was kind of more gamey than the original. I feel like, whereas the original you kind of have like a clear goal to get out of the facility and kind of felt more grounded. Whereas I remember when I played 2, it felt more aimless. Like I didn't know why I'm just going from here to there, and I'm definitely reflecting some of that in Freeman's mind. So you're definitely getting a few of my original thoughts in the game where because like okay, I'm following the rebels. Okay, the rebels are bombed. So what the hell am I doing now? You know, it's and like what's our plan? Like okay, I'm with the rebels, but do we have a plan at all? You know, so yeah. But I mean, it's still a good game for sure. I'm not, but I mean, we'll put it like this: I still haven't played Half-Life Alex, and I feel like if I was like a fanatic about it, though, you know that's kind of changed with me getting older. Is or I don't know if it's me getting older or it's just me adapting to the environment. I feel like there could be almost any new game released. It's the game of my dreams, and I'm still fine with like waiting 2 years to play it or more because there's just so many damn games I'm still catching up on that it's like, okay, well, I'm sure the great. I'm really looking forward to playing this game at some time in the future, but I'm in no rush. And any brand new game, I tend to kind of consider a beta anyway. That like the industry's trained me to wait, so I'm just like, yeah, fine. I'll just play something on my list, maybe from anywhere from like 3 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, or something, or more, or some of them. That just kind of feels like it matches my mood at the time or the genre I want to play. So let's see. Uh, okay. Okay. Well, I saw this question there. Have you heard people criticize Freeman's Mind for being too much, for too much, for being too much you lambasting the game and not being like it once was? I remember that in the early 2020s on the forums. Well, I mean, yeah, there's been some of that, but I mean, I was doing that from early on. You know, I was talking about like the crate room, and the thing is, it's not really intended to be lambasting it. It's meant I'm portraying it as though I'm Freeman and he's treating all this as real as much as the game allows me to. So if something's really standing out, then that like some things I kind of have to ignore, like level load changes, but you know, I'm treating. So some things, if you were actually going through them, they would frustrate the hell out of you, or you'd be concerned and not happy with this answers. And I think 2 is a little worse for that because maybe narratively, because in 1 you had like weird rooms, but like the game mostly makes sense with you trying to get out of Black Mesa, and then you're in the alien world, and then it's just kind of like okay, you don't know what to expect. Whereas 2, it's kind of like they're bringing up narrative stuff that may not make sense, or I don't know. But it's not me. It's not me trying to lambast it. It's me looking at it through the eyes of Freeman. The only thing, yeah, okay, I'd say the only thing is me actually lambasting it a little bit is them retconning the story. It's like, oh, hey, do you remember this guy, which we've never mentioned at any point? Do you remember this person, which we've never mentioned at any point? Hey, do you remember this, which we also never mentioned? Yeah, I'm giving them no slack on that at all. But that's the only thing yeah, like, yeah, I am trying to give them some digs at because they're like, no, no, no. If you want to, you can introduce new characters, you know, like Alex, or let's see, I guess some of the Vortigots. That I'm fine with that, but you know, don't give me this crap of like I should have known all along. You know, I'm not having it. So, if you wanted that, you should have laid the foundations in the original. Let's see. The Yeah, somebody's saying they're enjoying his weird ideas of trying to live in the countryside or overthrow the government. Is it that weird given his situation? I don't think it's that weird. I'm trying to that's some of the parts where I'm trying to think of like, okay, if I was actually stuck in this situation, everybody's trying to kill me. I finally have a breather. What am I going to do long term? Like that would be me trying to think ahead there. So yeah, so So yeah, that's the only. I even yeah, the narrative is the only part I am very openly giving Valve a hard time on. Is the retconning. It's like, no, you made your bed, you got to sleep in it. So, let's see. Oh, in Kyrania 2 episode, you said if I was a billionaire, making ominous structures or sculptures hard to reach places is exactly the sort of thing I would do. Can you give some examples of what you would build? Well, I mean, I like abstract art, but I guess stuff like you know how like some of the like in fantasy stories, or I guess you had some of this in reality with things like hieroglyphics, or where you know you're sort of telling the story through like actions people are doing, and it could sometimes be like weird things like like this kind of looks like it's an alien landing. I guess if you had sculptures, well, like you could have them like look like there's some worshiping like this really odd deity or something Lovecraftian, or um like I like some of the design, or you could have something that's like half normal, half looks like it's some HR Giger infected art style or something that looks like it's taking over. I don't know. I let's see more ominous statues like you. Yeah, like or you have a statue that like he's holding like an orb or something, and then like you can tell like his arm is like partially melting, things like that. Or I don't know. I can think of a lot of ideas, but like if you were making a movie and you were like uncovering this ominous culture of like something shady was going on here a long time ago, stuff along those lines, you know. Okay. Well, someone's asking if I finish Freeman's Mind, what would be after? Probably just go back to a bunch of Game Dungeon. And maybe by that point, I'll have a better animation pipeline and can do more stuff like Civil Protection or something more original. Uh, okay. Let's see, you've talked before about the emerging fog of badness as a continuously deteriorating state of threat and uncertainty in the 21st century. Have you identified any specific threats that you can defend yourself against given enough prep time? Well, as long as like nuclear war is off the table, the main thing you have to kind of prepare for, I guess, is just, I mean, getting basic needs met with like food, shelter, clean water, that sort of thing. I guess medical, because, and that's not just, you know, them not being available, but could be being affordable or something like that. Uh, because look, I don't know how we keep, like, I keep hearing tales that like when we have the AI bubble pop, that's essentially because it's so incredibly over leveraged, that's going to take down the economy with it, and we're going to have a Great Depression 2.0. I mean, I guess so. I mean, having reliable, cheap food sources would be a good uh, preparation for that. I guess. Yeah, I mean, I see that's not an easy problem. Like if you got thrown off the property you're on, I mean, because I mean, you know, living outdoors, that's a tall order. Uh, yeah, but I guess just Maslow's hierarchy of needs, essentially the bottom rung, bottom two rungs there. How much of an impact, if at all, do you think PlayStation's decision to go all digital will have on the company? They're saying loss of revenue due to customer backlash, loss of sales due to the upcoming PS6 and other products, and so on. That's hard to say. I mean, it. I feel like it does. It's weakening the veil between it and PC gaming more and more by them doing that, and maybe for the long, the general big advantages console has like the historical advantages they've had. Well, I guess physical disc. I mean, PC used to have disc too, but it's that kind of waned off. But beyond that, is that console you just buy it, you put the game in, and you play. And the simplicity and reliability of that was and still is a huge draw. So there is some of that, and also the price, the upfront price of a console for, I mean, it kind of depends what time period you're talking about, would be cheaper because they would kind of sometimes eat the cost on it or get it really close to margins. Whereas the PC, you'd be sourcing parts and the cost of the computer would be more. But I'd say for, geez, the past 15, 20 years, maybe longer, it's been, for like the same games, if you wait for sales, it's been cheaper on the PC. So yeah, you might have more upfront costs with the PC for similar performance, but you tend to make up for it in the long term, depending on how many games you have. So that's my train of thought. So by not having the physical disc as another fallback, that you're gonna like resell them or something, that's gonna be another weaker disadvantage. So it kind of, and Valve especially has done, or the modern ecosystem in general, but Valve especially, they've done a lot towards making it more of a, it just works kind of experience. I'd say consoles are still going to have the advantage on that. So consoles will probably still have the pricing advantage, but the Rampocalypse is kind of affecting everything. So it's still going to be just pretty high. So they're kind of loose. Now Sony is going to have exclusives, which is another traditional way of having it, but it sounds like they're going to be a lot more few and far between, which honestly I'm happy about. Not having less games, but just having less exclusive games. I'd like games to be in whatever people want to play them on, really, especially PC. So I'm not sure that's going to be enough to like bring in a lot of people. So it sounds like the only advantages are going to be they're a little cheaper than an equivalent PC, but even that's going to be expensive, and they'll probably still have a better, like, out of the box experience where you put it in, it works. You don't have to fiddle with all these settings. You don't have to fight bugs, that sort of thing, or learn more about how it works. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we're looking at them swirling the drain. Yeah, I don't know, but I think the RAM crisis is just kind of throwing a whole wrench in the works as to what ends up landing from this. Because, see, you have the PC ecosystem is getting really robust. That is so. Like, let's say you do have a crappy computer, you still have hundreds of games up. Well, I mean, really thousands, but you still have a bunch of games. Some of them that are going to be pretty popular. I mean, those some I can't remember if I mentioned that. One of the games I played not long ago was Iron Meat. It's essentially a Contra clone, but a very good one. And it's like, okay, yeah, you could run that on almost anything. And there's a bunch. I mentioned Dome Keeper. That's another one you could run on almost anything. Bolt Gun probably doesn't need too powerful a PC. So it's for pretty much any 2D game or any kind of, retro or intentionally dated graphics, it's only like the AAA stuff. It's I don't know where there's going to be a lot of stuff. Put it like this: the two things they have some general confidence on is there's going to be a lot of fluctuation one way or another. I think PC eventually still comes out, maybe not on top, but definitely in a good spot. Though it could be a couple years where it's not in a great place overall. Beyond that, I have no idea what to expect. So it's Yeah, I think the RAM crisis does eventually end, but you're who who knows when that is. So okay. Do you plan on updating the games on a Curse Farm site in the future, or is the idea is abandoned? No, I did it a few weeks ago, but there can be big gaps of months where I'm just keeping a big list. My list is filled up again. It's mostly caught up. Let's see, how many do I have? Not all of. I am getting pickier though, so I'm trying to refine it a little more. But okay, how many? I need to. Not all of these are going to make it on there. I need to research, but I've written down currently since making that last update. I have written down 65 titles. So there's it's a good thing it's a good thing many of these games are not my thing. I can tell after 5 minutes this isn't my kind of game. Like yeah, again, I'm just getting See, at first I was worried that I'm just getting kind of like numb to the games and like nothing excites me anymore. And no, it's really not the case because when it's like I'll have a lot of strikeouts and then I hit one of those and then it'll either be like crack or another one just like excites my imagination. I'm just really digging the gameplay. So I am pickier than I used to be, but I when I find a great game, I still love the hell out of it. So um have you been to Zakopane Mountains? No, I haven't. That's probably in the south. Then I haven't. I haven't. I think the farthest south I've been in Poland is to Warsaw. So let's see. I think Katowice is north of Warsaw. I can't remember. One of those two. Okay, answered this one. Stop killing games. I read an article that Poland potentially may build Europe's largest army. Not sure if I think that might be more posturing than true, but who knows? Not sure if that's true, but in a fictional future, if you were drafted, what would your preferable role be? Infantry, pilot? I mentioned I have a history repairing computers. Probably just repairing a whole bunch of computers. I mean, I'm pretty sure the military needs people who do that to maintain them. I could just be on base going, or they might send me to different places just to repair more systems on base. I mean, I don't hate the job. I mean, that's, and I have a background in it, so that might be enough for me to put me there. Yeah, drone repair guy. So, yeah, probably just repairing stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. I mean, that might not be what you get if you're getting drafted, but that there's a chance I could. What crime drama movies and TV series do you think are the most realistic? It's hard to say. I mean, it's. Have you seen the TV series The Wire? Yeah, I've seen it. It's good, and I like how. One of my favorite parts about The Wire, I think, is something I think even fans of the show don't really mention much. In the second, I think it's the second season. That's the one where it's mostly about the dock workers, or the import. There's this one character. I think he was Donnie. I forget. He is such a screw up that he advances the plot. He's such a big screw up, and I always find that fascinating. It's like it's like a really rare trope, and it's one I really like, is when you have a character that's such a screw up because he doesn't have impulse control or he makes like terrible decisions or he gets in like way over his head that like, that this is like escalating to like the level of like something like the mafia or, you know, or getting a lot of family members involved and basically starting a feud just because it's like they're like a walking chaos magnet for the plot. I forget what his name was. I thought it was Donnie, but maybe not. But I'm sure people know who I'm talking about. He was like he was like the union leader's cousin or something like that. Like, so we had to kind of keep bailing him out. And he's sort of this family member that like the family members would would only be too happy to disown, but they can't. So they're kind of stuck with him, having to clean up his mess. I love that dynamic. That's one of those things where it's a lot more fun to watch than to experience. You know. Uh, are you tired from the Stop Killing Games campaign? If so, what would you do for a vacation? Yeah, I would have been happy to have been done with it 1 month after it started. Uh, but thankfully, I am getting. There's a lot less stress on it for me now because we're getting to a point where, however this, well, there's a couple of things. However this plays out, I don't see myself as the determining factor anymore. I can still help it to some extent, and I am being asked to help it, but I don't think it like lives or dies as to whether I have to push this forward. We're getting enough help now, and it's bigger than me now, so I'm really happy for that. Um, the other is, I meant what I said earlier. I think we're going to win this eventually. The question is, yeah, the question is, do we win in about like a year and a half, or is it more like 8 to 10 years? That's kind of the question. And I like for it to be more like a year and a half, but it's there's some variables with that because the more you look into the law on this, the worse it looks for how companies are handling this. Just the selling you. We're lucky that it is so hostile that it's actually probably is running up against EU law. Because if the industry was doing more of a boiling frog approach to this, where they were trying to downplay when they kill a game by giving you all these benefits and stuff like that, and like muddying the waters, then it might be a much more uphill battle. But instead, it's just like, no, you get nothing. Like, I'm thinking of the meme from UHF where he's like, "What's in the box? Nothing. Absolutely nothing." Like, that's what it feels like for some of these games, and that's exactly the foot forward we want to push for legislators and courts and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, for vacation, I mean, really, I think I mentioned this before. I almost want a staycation first, so I could just have fun, taking it easy, playing games, watching movies, and then after I've had a few weeks of that, then I have like an actual vacation of someplace I'd want to visit. Like, actually, I guess some amusement parks. I always love going to those, but or I guess, yeah, for me, it's like the first reason I've ever wanted to visit Las Vegas. I'd love to be able to visit Omega Mart. That's or something like a weird exhibit like that. Okay, I just noticed this question. Do you think we'll get another gaming crash, or is gaming too big to fail? Oh, I think somebody's gonna crash. I don't. I think gaming will keep on trucking, and you're gonna have a lot of crashes around it. This is what I think will happen. Someone's asking, how are my collapse preparations going? Not so great. I mean, I have some water filtration and some sort of emergency food that could last me like, wouldn't be pleasant, but it could last like a month or two. But, it's tricky doing, you can only do so much preparation if you don't own your own, if you don't have property, if you're renting an apartment that has like limited space. But like if there was like a nightmare scenario, I'm pretty sure I could be mostly okay for a few months, but hardly ideal scenario though. I could stand to do more on that. I'm kind of envious of these prepper types that are just like just completely ready. So let's see. Okay, they're Okay, I may start skipping some questions because these are some that needed more votes for. It's one of those where I like would have to think about it. They're asking for a game series that hasn't had a new installment in 10 or more years that you'd like to see come back. I have to think about it. I mean, ones that haven't answered a bunch already, like I keep mentioning quarantine. I like quarantine, or I like I like the idea of quarantine. See, quarantine's that one where I don't think the execution's amazing, but it had such a there's such promise in there. Dungeons. Well, Dungeon Siege, if it was like an actual Dungeon Siege game and not like 3. Uh, Even then, I kind of feel like I'd rather see more kind of like fresher stuff, but let's see. Someone wants to know if that dream I mentioned in Freeman's mind is real about dying in Soviet era equipment. No, it's not, but that got me thinking. I played a game that was a little bit like that. I looked it up before the chat. It's called Tonight You Die. It's very short. It's basically like game jam level material, but it is dark in around brutalist architecture that has like an ominous feel to it. But actually, it's free. It's here. I'll put a link to it in the description if you want to. It's on itch.io. Someone's asking if I like Metallica or Megadeth more. I like both, but I think Metallica. They have more like just like really awesome tracks. I certainly would not be complaining if Megadeth was playing. Okay, I'm gonna start skipping some more questions. Okay, wait. Yeah, might as well clear this up. Is the fact that Freeman takes a nap at the end of the most recent game dungeon representative of you needing to take a break from everything and get some R&R? By coincidence, it kind of is, but that I had planned that over a year ago. Well, like I was thinking, maybe longer, because I was thinking that's a good place to stop because you're kind of defended on both sides. There's nothing in the hallway, and then once you go through the mines, it becomes dawn afterwards. So like more time has passed. I was thinking, well, if we don't want him like tired all the time, I mean, I could ignore the sleep deprivation, but I figured since we have the opportunity, yeah, fine, let's have him sleep there. I had him sleep in the original, so to try and give him like a bit of a recharge. So okay, is it possible to piggyback on stuff like the mobile marketplace stuff being a walled garden in order to push the issues of complete control on digital storefronts? I'd say not directly for Stop Killing Games, but that's this. See, like with what the Dutch Consumer Agency is doing, they're going after Sony on monopolistic terms. Basically, this exact thing that they're exercising. Okay, I was speaking casually there. Technically, I believe they're not going after them for monopoly charges. It's something more like market dominance is the exact charge. I forget what it is, but you get the idea. The idea is they're controlling the platform and they're controlling the store, and that's too much control essentially under like market laws. So that's what they're going after Sony for. If you had another consumer agency going after like a mobile, well, actually, I think they have gone after Apple in the past, but let's say a shot at Android or something like that. Yeah, especially because Google's kind of locking it down to some extent. So yeah, if there was the momentum to do that, and I don't see how we could spearhead anything like that. But if we had another opportunity where our support publicly to them, they would be beneficial and they would want that. In exchange, we could kind of get some of the terms that land in our issue included as part of the lawsuit. Then yeah, but that's kind of a shot in the dark. Like we don't have any plans of that I'm aware of. Like I think the one going after Sony was just sort of a lucky opportunity. So yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing where we're going after it because of our issue, can be sort of piggyback in there, but that's not our primary motivation. But just by coincidence, it's also a pro-consumer thing. So we're certainly not against any action like that. Even though our issue is just going to be like a tiny sliver of the court case, but that might be all it takes. So anyway, I wouldn't. Hey, you can clip me for this. I wouldn't bet the farm on us winning wholeheartedly through the Dutch lawsuit. We could, but if that's more just like another bonus lane. So if it fails, oh well. If it's successful, awesome. But we have plenty of other backup options too. So I don't see it as the main lane. Because let's say it did fail a year from now, somebody's going to say, "Oh, another failed effort. They had no chance. They didn't know what they were doing." No, these are like the bonus. The people who say that are what's the saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. They're not familiar with that concept. Now it just so happens I think some of our shots are way better than others, but they're also slower. So. Okay, I'm skimming some questions I don't have great answers for. Well, okay, this is easy, I guess. They're saying, how do you like your potatoes? What's your preferred way of cooking them? Well, I haven't had potatoes in a while because honestly, I found that, okay, I'm not a diabetic, but I find that I tend to do better on diets that would be more suitable for a diabetic, like a low glycemic index, because what happens is the foods that have high glycemic index kind of make me a little crazy. So I'm just like bouncing off the walls, that sort of thing. And potatoes are one of those that kind of do it. But that said, what? I mean, I guess I like stuff like, I guess fried, I like hash browns or mashed potatoes are good too. I like potatoes. It's just they make me a little crazy now, I've noticed. Where I have trouble focusing and I have to like go work it off, like exercise to. So yeah, if I was going to take them and then go do like a 10-mile hike or something, so that'd be different. But haven't been eating many potatoes because of that. Yeah, I like potato chips. So that's another. Yeah, so pretty much probably in general the unhealthiest way to have them. What happening surprised you most these past months, unrelated to Stop Killing Games? Damn, there's something that really surprised me. Damn, I forgot what it was. Well, I guess an obvious answer would be invasion of Iran. That's taking us to interesting times. But damn it, what was the thing? There was something I was really surprised by. And it was the sort of thing. It's kind of like what I mentioned in the last Freeman's Mind, how he wasn't surprised Grigori is crazy. He's surprised he's alive with how he was acting, And it was that kind of mentality, but I forget what it was about. Where, damn, I think it was something where, like, I wasn't, it's like you get, I think it was something like I wasn't surprised that like a company was making a bad decision, but that they're just full speed ahead bad decision like that. And so I'm afraid I can't remember. Sorry. Oh yeah, somebody's asking if the way Freeman's Mind is recorded has changed. 1 GB. Yeah, no, that's still the same for Freeman's Mind to add in the motion blur filter because I'm basically recording at 180 frames per second. And the thing is, maybe it's gotten better in the past couple years, but easily not as early as like 5 years ago. There is software to add in motion blur, but I don't think it's as good as the method I've been using this whole time. So As soon as the quality level can hit the same level, I'd be fine with switching. So it's not a matter of me just trying to live in the past and not wanting to adapt. It's like the new stuff needs to. I need the motion blur to be as smooth. So, how do you sort and manage your emails? You probably get thousands of emails a day, and I'm just curious, how do you handle them? I do not get thousands a day. It can the most when things were really popping off, I was getting 1 or 200 a day for like in like just the peak of feedback from Stop Killing Games, stuff like that. Most days it's anywhere from I don't know 5 to 15, something like that. I'm unfortunately pretty far behind. I'm on Gmail. I try to sort them by general categories, and I have a system that was working for a little bit. I need to come back to it. Where the problem with Gmail is once you get above a certain level, like it's no longer free. You have to start paying for it. And I crossed that threshold. I think it's like 15 gigs or something. I crossed that threshold. I think it was 2024 or last year. I can't remember. So I didn't have the time to sort through it. So I just paid for a year of Google, and I've been doing that for that's right. I just entered the second year of doing it. But what I eventually want to do is just go through the old emails, like kind of archive them, and then just put them in an archive I can access offline. I found good software for doing that, though I sort of lost my notes, so I need to kind of retrace my steps. But so that way, once I do that, I can take them out of Gmail and just delete those emails. But I still have a local archive. But that's just, I've been so busy that just kept falling by the wayside. So I still plan to do it eventually. It's just like pretty far back in line for me getting to it. But yeah, I sort stuff by, some are on Game Dungeon, some I just, I don't mean it as harshly as it sounds, but I label as junk reports where I'm thinking, it's just like, okay, well, this isn't something that's really gonna, those are emails where that's something that doesn't really, I don't care too much about, but they're just sort of telling me for its own sake. It's like, okay. So for reports, that has information I really care about. Yeah, for Game Dungeon, I have like game request. I have a section for that. I have stuff related to audio, stuff related to audio, categories for audio, animation, categories for mapping, categories for general help. There's of course a big one for Stop Killing Games, though it's the same category I've been using since I've been naming since I think I did the Games as a Service as fraud. So my category for the Stop Killing Games is just called War on Games as a Service. And again, I don't mean that quite literally. I mean it's just an abbreviation for the practice of destroying the game. It's not trying to stop games as a service. It's trying to stop the lack of ownership. I just did that for brevity. Because yeah, there's definitely more. Look, I knew what I was getting into, but there's definitely more, I'd say, bad faith actors now looking to like pick apart anything I say than there used to be. But I brought that on myself, so I try to clarify things when I can. When I realize, yeah, somebody might take this out of context. What do you think about the character Q from Star Trek Next Generation? I think Q's a fun character, though. They kind of go a little too. I mean, John Delancey was great, but they kind of go a little too hard with breaking the fourth wall in it, and just kind of getting like a little silly for my taste. But they have good scenes with it too. Also, I really like how he's just kind of like a trickster Borg god, essentially, because I mentioned what a great villain the Borg were earlier. Q's the one that set that all in motion, and he did that just sort of on a whim, kind of wanting to teach humanity a lesson because he feels like they're reach above their station or something. It's like, yeah, let's just casually have you brush up against like one of the worst threats to ever inhabit the Star Trek universe. So. Let's see. Okay, I'm getting close. Oh no, there's a few more questions. Okay. Oh yeah. Since the visible light spectrum is so narrow compared to what is actually out there, do you think uh, there are other planes of existence we don't know about? I think something like dreams could be happening somewhere else. Maybe. I feel like that's one of those. That's one of those questions. I feel like that's above my pay grade. Like I don't know. I've I, I feel like I've always kind of felt this way, but I'm like more aware of it as I get older. Is I find a lot of contentment just with the senses I have and experiencing reality we do. That's part of the reason I'm so enthused about VR is because it's like, oh man, I'm just opening up all these amazing doorways to other worlds that it's just like I just get thrilled by it. So I think I find so much potential contentment from that, just with my existing reality, that I don't feel like I'm missing out by not seeing more of the light spectrum. Okay, I'm skipping a few more I don't have good answers for. Oh yeah, somebody's wondering if Deer Napped and Terror and Christmas Town were both games developed, released by different students in a game design class. Those I checked. Those from '95, so I'm not sure there were game design classes at that point. I think somebody said it did come from like the same software, like FPS Maker or something like that. So, but yeah, there was some overlap there. Um, what university did you go to? I guess a couple because I had that pattern of like going to the university, then like working for a year. But I ended up graduating from Radford University, so not ultra prestigious or anything like that. It's in Virginia. Okay, I'm skipping some more. So I was asking if there's music I listen to while reading Lovecraft. I generally don't listen to music while I read, but and then they recommend some in the post. And I actually haven't heard the soundtrack to Rayman 2, so I should check that out eventually. Okay, this is the last question for the submitted ones. So if you have some live ones, do at Ross Broadcast. And the last one is the Pimax still of interest to you, or have other headsets piqued your interest more? For what I'm after, Pimax currently has no competition. Like, because what I want is biggest field of view and, uh, having reasonably high resolution and not having obvious defects. That said, people have made the analogy that it's like to like a prototype car that can do amazing things, but it has all these, it's fussy and has all these conditions. That's totally accurate for the Pimax. But yeah, like right now I'm having an issue that the fans in it started buzzing. And at first I opened it up, like based on the advice of this reviewer, to try to sort of like pry the chassis away from the blades a little bit. And that seemed to help a little bit. Then it came back. And then I emailed Pimax about it. Then they said to like remove the pads from there. And then it didn't go away. And then thankfully they're being pretty cool about it. And they said they're fine. I didn't want to have to send the whole thing back because the screen is fine. And I don't want to like roll the dice and get a replacement. And then there's like a dead pixel in the center of a replacement screen or something like that. So, and the fans are simple enough. I could do this myself. I just need a screwdriver and maybe some pliers or something. They've offered to send me some replacement fans. That said, I don't know when. So my VR is pretty noisy right now. Not that I've been playing it much anyway because it's so damn hot. No way I can. All I've been doing with my VR lately is sometime in the morning when it's sort of cool, is just do some just quick tests. But it's mostly been with getting games that aren't designed that don't have VR mods, but you can inject the stereoscopic rendering, getting them to look almost just right, or as much as I can possibly get them right, so that when it does cool off and my fans aren't buzzing and stuff, I can kind of hit the ground running later. So I'm kind of going in there, like kind of tweaking settings, see what looks the best, and trying under different scenarios, different field of view, that sort of thing. So I'm trying to do like a lot of the research work on it. Okay, questions. I must not be logged in. That's why they're not highlighting. Okay. At the current rate of progress, do you currently see yourself finishing Freeman's Mind before you get to Half-Life 3? I don't know, man. Stop Killing Games just killed all my... Just kill all my predictions, you know. Have you watched the show Devs? How do you feel about existential dread in media? Yeah, I saw the show Devs. Existential dread. Well, I mean, it kind of depends. It's like, I felt like in that show, they were being almost like cult-like and fatalistic to the point where it's like, I felt like it was getting kind of stupid. And I'm glad that the ending kind of defied it, sort of. But I don't know. Existential dread, I think it can be great, but you have to feel like you have a chance. You know, like that show I love, From, that for sure has some existential dread, but you also feel like they have a chance. So that's like the sweet spot for me. And the chance may not even be you get out of the situation. It just means you have a chance of surviving, you know. So do you think that companies should continue updating games for older platforms like Apex and Final Fantasy 14? Well, I think they better for Final Fantasy 14 because that's they're charging for the month for that one. Do you think the companies should continue updating games? Well, I mean, it depends on their business model and what they feel like they can handle. I mean, you know, because I mean, live service, I mean, having constant updates, that's a lot of work. That sounds grueling to me. But at the same time, if you're chasing that kind of that market demographic, I guess that's what you have to do. So, like put it like, okay, I have a little bit of nuance here. I have no shade whatsoever to Bungie for deciding, okay, we're done with Destiny 2, we're not going to update anymore. I'm totally fine with that. That said, I give them all the hell in the world for removing content that people paid for, especially with DLC saying, oh yeah, we're just going to vault it. By that, we mean we'll take it down, we'll never put it up again. Oh yeah, they should, like, in fact, I think that's still legally actionable depending on how the law gets ruled on this for like the DLC people paid for. So I'll give them all the hell in the world for that. But if they just don't want to update, like, let's say they didn't take away content. If they just wanted to make a live service game, update it a long time, then say, okay, no guys, we're done. Fine. You know, like, no, I don't feel like people should have to be shackled to what they made. They just can't take back what they've already sold, you know? And I don't know if I still answered your question, but now I tried. Do you have any interest in publishing a game on Steam? No, not really. I mean, I'm busy. I still need to get. I'm trying not to take on more projects, and with the movie, I have a relatively clear vision of what I'm going for. I don't really have a vision of a game I want made. Plus, there's so many now. Like, let me catch up, and then maybe I'll have a better idea of what I feel like I'm missing. Okay. Which quest in Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind did you find the most memorable? I don't really remember a lot of them. I mean, I remember the guy falling from the sky, of course, but you see that pretty early on. I had trouble kind of getting into the story. Maybe it was partially with the presentation. I mean, I remember it was kind of neat having, like, yeah, there was sort of like the plague wall or something like that where it was plagued in, they were fencing it off, but I remember I remember the storytelling and narrative not really, the way they presented it not really resonating with me. So I don't remember enough of them. Do you have any fears? I mean, well, there's general death. That's always a General one. Diving deep. So like if I'm swimming in the water, I'm going deeper and deeper. Like I can kind of, yeah, that'll creep me out a lot, and I don't like doing that. Other than that, nothing that's not like justified. I mean, obviously, if like a guy was pointing a gun at me or something, I'd be scared. But if they're not, then I'm not. So I guess I can be okay. I can be extra. I don't know if it rises to fear or not, but like more than cautious about explosives. I don't like to be anywhere near them going off. Um, Same for radiation. Like if I mean beyond like just base levels. I want. I'm gonna be kind of paranoid about that. Trying to. But yeah, that's more like squeamish rather than fear. No, mostly just death. Have you heard of play the game Command and Conquer Renegade, the shooter one? Yeah, I have heard of it. I still need to play it. It's on my list, just not at the top. No, there wasn't a hidden meaning behind the smoke inhalation line in Freeman's mind. I just thought that was a funny way to. I thought that was a funny way to end it, and I remember thinking I myself couldn't remember. I figured, you know what? Rather than just look this up, why don't we just go with that? And then she's just gonna go to sleep anyway. So there really wasn't ulterior motive in doing that. That's just felt like a good way to end the episode. I have not seen Tom White's newest Weird Video Games episode, even though I have a cameo in it. I'm looking forward to Tom's. I'm probably behind on a few of Tom's videos, but the ones that him, internet comment etiquette. There's some others where I'm like pretty far behind, but I definitely enjoy them. I think what it is, it's like I'm only. It's like I'm only sometimes in the mood for like comedy, and I tend to lately kind of be more in the mood for just mind-bending stuff where you're going into the unknown stuff. But yeah, if I'm in the mood for comedy, I definitely it could be towards the top of what I'm looking for. Yeah, Tom stuff tends to be pretty reliably good. No, I'm not giving Valve time estimates. I Stop Killing Games wrecks so much from my estimates, and seems like I think I'm able to wind it down on my end, but these crises keep emerging. So, what skills do you think are necessary right now in the AI era? Are you scared of AI? No, I'm not scared of AI at all, but I also have really gotten sick of the AI art and AI response. Like it's more like I have not a like a bit of a disgust from AI chat, but like phrasing I've seen a lot. I mean, I only use it for like really specialized stuff. Like if okay, if like I had a F. Okay, like to give you an example, I was recording footage from VR to compare like a native VR mod to stereoscopic injector mod, and the footage I recorded when I tried to play it back in a 3D, it wasn't quite aligned. So I was looking for a script to expand the image by 80 pixels, and I could do that if I really had to, but it would probably take me like an hour to figure that out properly, or 45 minutes at least. So I asked the AI, like, okay, can you make a FFmpeg batch script that will expand this by 80 pixels, spreading out from the center? And it's like, bam, did that. Okay, so for somebody like me who just needs like something, just some throwaway script, it's good for that. But that's about the extent I use it. Just real kind of basic throwaway specialized script stuff. Did you already give your opinion on SMBox Gmod 2, or have you not tried it yet? No, I haven't tried it. I guess we'll find out what kind of impact it has on it. When was the last time you went to a convention? What did you do and who did you meet? Actually, okay, it's just by coincidence. I'd say, what was it? Last month, but it was kind of a special circumstance. My wife really, there was one in Warsaw where the voice actor of Leon, the new Leon for Resident Evil, Nick Apostolides, I think, he was going to be appearing there and you get your photo taken with him, and she was really interested in doing that. So we went there and did that. I was there. There were a ton of cosplayers, but I kind of browsed through it, but there wasn't, I don't know. It made me realize I actually wasn't that interested in most of it because it's like the way to put it, it's like I'm interested in playing the Resident Evil games, but there's a lot of stuff about the Resident Evil games. I'm figuring, well, if you've already played them, I kind of want to move on to the next kind of sort of crafted experience that you get like a neat thing out of. I don't really just want to like keep circling the drain over stuff I already know, I guess is the way I would phrase it. And that seemed like what a lot of the convention was for that. But I was going there on her behalf for that. Before that, geez, I can't. I'm trying to think if I've even been to a convention since I've been a kid. I might have. I might be forgetting about one. But yeah, I don't know. The conventions just don't do that much for me. I don't know. But I guess it just would depend on what's going on, I guess, and what the context is. Because if I could see something like amazing I've never seen before at one, yeah, I might be interested. But if it's just like seeing like a bunch of art exhibits and cosplayers, like, well, it's like, yeah, I don't know. Is Silk Song on your list? Yeah, I don't know if it's on the official list. I think that one's so well known I don't even need to add it there. But yeah, I'll probably play Silk Song eventually. I'd say there's a decent chance I'll probably, since people are complaining it's really hard, and I only got about 75% maybe or 80% through the entire game of Hollow Knight, and it's supposed to be harder than that. Yeah, I might end up using a mod at some point, but my plan would be to go in blind and then see how far I get until I hit the wall of frustration and then look up mods. So. The ghost fence, you mean? Oh yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, for Morrowind. Oh yeah, they asked about a good mouse. Sorry, I missed that. I mean, it's okay. I still have an old Steel Series. Okay, the court. Steel Series. What was it? Sensei. Though it's the same shape as the Zai. Actually, I think they stopped making them. I got a cheap backup one from AliExpress just when this one dies, and then you know it bugs me. This is a pet peeve of mine for mice. I mean, even this is nowhere like close to like my dream mouse, but it's just okay. But what bugs me is there are some that make this shape. I think it's Zowie, but they're wired in such a way that you can only use them left-handed or right-handed, and the opposite side buttons will not work. So you have to pick one. You can either have the left mouse side buttons work or the right ones. You can't have both. I'm just like, how hard is it to enable both sides if you really wanted to? Because that's what I want. So I'm not touching any of those that like they shut off one side. Like, but yeah, for AI, oh yeah, back to the AI thing. I'm not afraid of it at all as far as like existential risk. Like unless we were to do something insane, like hook up nuclear missile guidance systems to AI. Or no, not the, well, less so the guidance, but more like the launch capability. If we're not doing that, I'm not really worried about AI. I think it can do amazing things with narrow focus, but the most of how it's being used is kind of like a glorified autocomplete. So let's see. Okay. Okay, so people are thanking me. Thanks back, I guess. Yeah, I still feel dumb. Freeman's Mind has taken so long, but like I've said before, better late than never. It's coming the story of my life. I guess that is one small upside to stop killing games is that it gives me a little bit of justification for being behind on stuff. So it's like, okay, yeah, I didn't get as many videos out, but we did change global policy. So, you know, good and bad. Okay, I think, do you have any plans to return or visit the USA? Not really. I mean, part of it, I mean, one, that's expensive flying there. But also, this is a nitpicky thing and it wouldn't hold me back entirely. But I can say if I were to set back in the USA for one day, my taxes just get double as complex. Like it just, and I just dread that. Like it's like I'm gonna have to file like 5 more pages of it just being there one day. So that's also a deterrent. But there's also cost of living. But if I was visiting again, I'd say a lot of it's cost. But that was one of the that was one of the motivating factors for me leaving in the first place. Would you ever consider attending a convention to host a meet and greet with fans? Well, I have done that before, and it was at an amusement park. So yeah, as long as we had something fun to do, then sure. Was the 3-year gap the longest, or was the longer one I'm forgetting about? For Freeman's Mind, I think this was the longest gap, except maybe between 1 and 2, because I wasn't sure I was going to do 2. They have a cheap gamer mouse, but sometimes it has LED lights go off like a disco light. I have no idea how to turn it off. Yeah, if it's, you might have to look into third-party software for that. Hey, I'll say something. Yeah, give away a secret here. A friend helped me with. Okay, normally on this mouse, this light, you cannot turn it off under any circumstances. However, a friend of mine was doing research on electronics, and he found that a whole bunch of mice are all sourcing from the same place. And what you had to do was like hold down the DPI sensitivity button for like, I forget how many seconds, or I think that was the trick. And then it would turn, like maybe hold it down for like 10 seconds, and then it would turn off. And I even emailed SteelSeries support prior to that asking, hey, how can I turn this light off? Because I don't like the distracting lights either. And what they said you can't. Like, so even their own support didn't know how to do this. But and I get the feeling there's other tricks like that to uncover. But yeah, if you want to try and turn off like that little light in the center there, because they had like a light here you could turn off, and I think there was like another one maybe underneath it you could turn off, but they wouldn't let you turn off that tiny little one. I was ready to put tape over it, but yeah, in fact, that's actually what I've done with my gamepad. Maybe for the mode key I have on my gamepad, I just put it over some electrical tape on it because it was just way too bright. It has a light that comes up there when you switch modes between the D-pad and the thumbstick so they can swap functionality, which is useful for some games. And so, yeah, that's always a sign of progress when you're using friggin' tape to tape over lights because you want to turn them off. Yeah, efficiency at its finest. Okay, yeah, I think I'll end it here. And people are saying to raid conversations. Okay, so help remind me. Do I just? Oh shoot, I'm not logged in. I might not be able to raid, or can I? Okay, so here, hold on. Let me see if I. Okay, Twitch. Okay, log in. Okay, good. I remembered my credentials. I'm gonna hide the chat window just just in case I don't accidentally, you know, leak my own passwords or something. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, yeah, it wants to authenticate at my email or one of them. Okay, do the login code. Okay. Okay, so now I should be logged in, but then I probably... What the hell is... Okay, yeah, they're throwing all this spam at me. Okay, I think I may have to refresh the chat window. Okay, I refreshed the chat window. So I'm saying I should be able to raid from OBS. Well, I don't want to spend the 5 minutes figuring out, or longer, figuring out how to do that. So, okay. Okay, well, I think, let's hope I'm logged in now. So, okay, do I just do raid, /raid, space conversations with Curtis, or do I need the @ symbol? I always forget this stuff. Yeah, I will say, I think I mentioned this before. I will say one thing I can identify 100% with is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You know, Sean Connery's character, his dad, is saying, you know, I wrote it down in my journal so I didn't have to remember. I am absolutely taking after that. I have just pages of instructions for myself for, like, okay, I'm going to try that and then try and end the stream here. Game Dungeon should be coming next. So I don't have a time estimate, but not certainly a lot faster than the last gap. So. Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah. I did the wrong, forgot the S. And wow, I'm just sweating like a spigot. Okay. Conversations with Curtis. Okay, see ya.